Don't get me wrong, I love my brother, so allow me to explain. Please forgive me if the thought process is everywhere on this. So, my little brother was born with medical problems and wasn't expected to live like he has. When I was younger, after he was born, I was too scared to play with him for fear of hurting him or accidentally pulling one of the tubes out of him or accidentally disconnecting the wires attached to him. As he started to grow, he got stronger, but then his and my sister's dad abandoned us. Long story, but we found out he is not my dad thanks to ancestry DNA. That is when things took a downturn. Again, I love my little brother. I got along with him better than our sister, who was the middle child while I was the oldest. But when I was 8 years old, after their dad abandoned us, my mom leaned heavily on me. She taught me how to give my brother his medicine, how to put an NG tube in his nose, how to fill the bag with his special formula, how to change his diaper, and so on. Things an 8-year-old shouldn't have to do. I also had stopped believing in things that all children still believed in at that time, because my mom told me they weren't real. My sister and brother got to keep believing in them until they were old enough to know better. As I grew older, she put more responsibilities on me. She made me be the one in charge of making sure he got on his school bus once he was old enough to go to school, and make sure my sister got to her school while I was in middle school. I remember one time I rushed to get him ready because I had overslept by accident. I literally handed him to the school bus assistant without his shoes and apologized. I then tried to get my sister awake, but she wouldn't get up. I decided that if I didn't want to miss my bus, I had to go. My sister could walk to school, and on mornings when I had to walk with her, I would get on my school bus by her school as there was a stop there. But when I didn't, I would get on at the one by the house. When I got home, I was yelled at because my mom got a phone call from the officer at the school about my sister missing too much school. I asked my mom, "So you would rather I missed school to make sure she got to school?" My mom replied, "Yes, you don't miss school, so I won't go to jail for you missing school once in a while." That got to me. My education was less important than her making sure her own children got to school. By the time I was in high school, my mom wasn't working because she didn't want to. I was working weekends at a flea market to help support the house because she couldn't get AFDC since she wouldn't work. She would sit in her room all day and only came out to cook dinner. Meanwhile, I had to come home from school or work, clean the house, take care of my brother, and care for the animals she brought into the home. I wasn't allowed to do anything after school because I had to take care of my brother. By the time I got to the 11th grade, I was so burnt out between working, school, house chores, which I was the only one doing. Caring for my brother, caring for unwanted animals, dealing with schoolmates or coworkers who would vent to me, and having to miss school 2 days every week to go to dialysis with my little brother, I had had enough. I dropped out of school and quit my job because I couldn't do it anymore. Close to my 18th birthday, my mom told me I was giving one of my kidneys to my brother because I was a perfect match. I hated being told that, but I was going to do it until I found out that due to me being underweight from my own medical issues, there was an 66% chance of me dying, and if I did survive, I would be dependent on people to take care of me. After that, when I turned 18, I moved out and away from her and my siblings because I didn't want to put others first anymore. Fast forward to recently, I'm 36, mom is 66, and brother is 31. Mom told me, "I need you to take care of your brother when I die." I replied, "You stole my childhood and teen years from me to care for him. I'm not doing it as a freaking adult. Get someone else to do so, or he is going into a nursing home. I'm done." I then quickly left her house before any fighting could break out. So, am I the idiot? 5/9. Edit. I am adding this because I saw a couple of people mention this. Yes, I am in therapy. I have been for years now. A lot of it is related to my mom. Some of it is related to my sister's and brother's father, and some is because of the PTSD I struggle with from my ex-husband. This has just been something that has been eating away at me since it happened last week. 5/10 update. There is a family birthday party I will be attending tonight, and I will address my sister there about finding him a group home since she has power of attorney for him. Everything will have to be done through her about it since she took it. My mom and brother currently live with my godfather, who himself takes care of his disabled younger brother. Another reason my mom thought I would just do it is that I had already done it before, and also because I look up to my godfather. I know my brother is safe at my godfather's, and the fact that my godfather is a licensed nurse makes me feel comfortable about him staying there with my mom because my godfather loves my little brother as if he was his own. He cares a lot for everyone and has even told my sister, me, and my cousin that he would take care of him. He won't allow my mother to abuse him, as Adult Protective Services being called to the house could risk him losing his nursing license. I am reading all of your comments, I promise. There are so many of you giving me great advice, and I appreciate that so much. I will take the time to address some right now. Like I have said in many comment replies, I can't go no contact with my mother. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to find out how my brother is doing or see him and my godfather. Also, let's not wish death on anyone. Yes, my mother is a horrible mother, and she even recognizes and admits that to people that I only talk to her because she is my brother's guardian. The only reason I will go to her funeral is to make sure she is actually dead. It greatly upsets me that she realizes this and won't do anything to fix it, but does everything to make it worse. About my sister, we have low to no contact, as we honestly can't be around each other without fighting. We would get into full-on fistfights. I went no contact with her after my oldest niece yelled at me, "Don't hurt my mom." I realized I was choking my sister in that moment and let go. Our fight started because she hit our little brother in the back of his head. When I was younger, I was always her punching bag because our mother wouldn't get her into therapy. Her excuse for letting herself hit me was, the doctors say she does it because she is comfortable with expressing herself to us. But the moment I tried to do something like that, I would be the one in trouble and getting beat by our mother. My sister and I only started talking after she agreed to come to a therapy appointment with me, and she decided to get therapy for herself. So, we are working through things. She has even told me she realizes I wasn't the problem when we were younger, and that our mother was, now that she's going through therapy. So, we may be able to salvage our relationship. Yes, CPS was called countless times, but they would always leave us with our mother. As I got into middle school, she would force me to help her make sure she didn't lose her moneymaker, my brother. She benefited from his SSI and any charity that helped him by telling me, "If you don't, you'll never see your brother again, as he will be sent to a group home away from you and your sister. Your sister will get adopted because she is cute. You won't have anyone, and when I fight to get you all back, I will only fight to get your sister and brother back, and make sure you never know how they are doing." I know now that this is mental abuse, along with manipulation. She told me something similar when I came back from living with my sister's and brother's dad for 2 years. I wanted to go back with him, and she said, "If you go back, you'll never know how your sister and brother are doing." CPS is a real joke. I have watched kids at school personally get taken from good homes and loving parents and put into the foster care system, while kids like me slipped through the cracks. Sister and brother's dad is not my biological dad. We found out thanks to Ancestry DNA when I was 26. My sister had her and me take the test. I then found out, after my sister had us do it, that her dad is connected to her through the DNA, as he had taken it too. But I am not. I don't know who my dad is, and after the mistreatment from both my mother and my siblings' dad, I'd rather not find out. Yes, I went back to school and got my GED on the first try. I also went to school for business office administration. I have been a store manager for one company and a T2/mentor/trainer/supervisor for another company. I honestly prefer not having an office job after those experiences. I also recognize that I can't work in the service industry due to my PTSD. I'm also diagnosed with autism, but I can live on my own, care for myself, and work. Yes, I do have a few accommodations to help me. Everyone knows I can't handle loud noise or being touched. When a fire drill is about to happen, I get told to step out of the building 5 minutes before it goes off and go to my assigned spot before they do it. No one touches me unless they have to. My job is also awesome. We have a therapist on site, so if I need to talk to one before my next appointment, I go to the one on site. We also have nurses and doctors. We also have a gym that we and our family have free access to. Our job also holds monthly events to help get us all together. I'm also part of the autism group on site that helps spread awareness about it to other employees. Most of my coworkers didn't know I had autism until they saw me helping the group at one of the events. But they also told me after finding out that it explains a lot about how I act and carry myself. I have a group of friends that will not let me push them away. They do everything to make me not feel like a burden and kidnap me, especially when I pull away. In fact, this weekend, Two friends I hadn't seen in a while are kidnapping me and taking me to Disney. I also work now with Extra Life to raise money for local Children's Miracle Network hospitals. This is to help make sure families of children similar to my brother get the treatment their loved ones need. I have been part of it since 2016. I also do Sight for Kids because if it wasn't for the local Lions Club when I was younger, I wouldn't have gotten my first pair of glasses. Those glasses honestly helped me in school after my third-grade teacher said I was unteachable. No, my brother's dad has nothing to do with him, and I would much rather take my brother in before I allow that jerk to take him. Don't want to get into any of that because that is currently a can of worms I am working through in therapy. I will say this, there was much more abuse that came from my mother than just this part. It was so bad that my grandmother wrote my mother a letter telling her how horrible of a mother she was and that she never deserved to have me. My grandmother was a God-fearing Christian woman, and to see the letter that she had written to my mom shocked me. I would have sworn it didn't come from my grandmother if she hadn't admitted to writing it before her death. I had family members literally try to get custody of me. Some I would have loved to live with, while another one was worse than my mother. Anyways, I will update if any news happens tonight at the party. Thank you all. 511's final update. So I talked with my sister at my cousin's birthday party. My sister assured me she already had it set up for him to go into a group home when our mother passed away. My mom overheard it and came over. She started yelling at me and called me ungrateful for talking to my sister. I was about to say something when my sister yelled at me, "Shut the F up, Mom. You F-ed up on all three of your kids. You forced insert my name to grow up after my dad left us. You are the very reason why my dad left us. You are the reason, insert my name, left the day she turned 18 with her hurtful ex. You are the reason why I and her are so hash it up in the head and can't stand to be around each other. You keep this up, and I am putting you in a home where no one will come and visit you and getting our brother into the group home sooner. Got that?" Our mom tried to tell my sister she couldn't do that, and my sister said, "The F I can't. I have yours and his POA. I have the power to do what is in the best interest of you and him. To be frank, if it weren't for me having it, insert my name, would have done it a while ago by putting our brother in a nursing home and having you locked up in the nut house. When you got out, you would go into a nursing home. There's a long reason behind that. Just know my mom has never taken care of her health but has taken care of my brother. I think it's because she gets money for caring for him. Needless to say, I don't have to worry about my brother now that I talk to my sister. I also found out she still only talks to our mom because of our brother. Otherwise, she would be no contact with Mom if she didn't have power of attorney. On a side note, no one in my mom's family likes her. They only tolerate her because of my little brother, whom everyone cares for, as I have found out. When the three of us were younger, it was because she had all three of us. Thank you, everyone, for the advice, as it led to that talk with my sister and finding out she had already set all of it up. She didn't plan to tell me until it happened, and when it did, she would tell me where he was at so I could visit and call for him. My sister said she would also talk to me more about this because she didn't realize how much our mother was leaving me in the dark until hearing my concerns. So there is a happy ending here. Thank you all. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, I have a similar story. I am 40 years old now and my brother is 32. He has cerebral palsy, CP. I was highly parentified from 8 to 15-ish. But my parents got him into a school program where he would be boarded throughout the school year. Then they found a home that offered care once he was older. They made sure I would not have to take him in. And it works off his income as a disabled person receiving benefits. Your mom needs to do better by the rest of her children, and that includes you. Comment 2. No, you do not. Your brother will need long-term care. She either makes arrangements now or the government will have to step in later. Tell her that. He is not your kid. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a couple of weeks since my last update and I wanted to fill you in on what's been happening. First off, thank you all for your support and advice. It's meant a lot to me during this difficult time. So, after my conversation with my sister at the birthday party, things took an unexpected turn. A few days later, my mom ended up in the hospital after suffering a stroke. It was a scary moment for all of us, and despite our differences, I rushed to the hospital to be by her side. As I sat there in the waiting room, memories of my childhood came flooding back. I remembered how my mom used to sing to me when I was sick, and how she'd always make sure I had my favorite stuffed animal with me. It was a stark contrast to the way she treated me as I got older, but it reminded me that deep down, she did love me in her own way. When I finally got to see her, she looked so frail and vulnerable. It was hard to reconcile this image with the strong, sometimes overbearing woman I knew. She couldn't speak, but she reached out and squeezed my hand, and in that moment, I knew I had to put aside my anger and be there for her. Over the next few days, I spent a lot of time at the hospital helping my sister make decisions about our mom's care. It was a difficult time, but it also brought us closer together. We had some long, honest conversations about our childhood and the way our mom treated us. It was healing in a way to finally talk about it openly and realize that we weren't alone in our experiences. As our mom started to recover, we began discussing the future. My sister had already set things in motion for our brother to go into a group home when the time came, but with our mom's health declining, we knew we had to make some tough choices. I'll be honest, a part of me still wanted to walk away and let my sister handle everything. But seeing my mom in that hospital bed, I realized that I couldn't do that. She may have made a lot of mistakes, but she was still my mother, and I had to do what was right. So I told my sister that I would help her with whatever she needed. We started looking into different care options for our mom, and I even offered to have her move in with me if it came to that. It was a big decision, and I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. In the midst of all this, I also started going to therapy more regularly. I realized that I had a lot of unresolved trauma from my childhood, and I needed to work through it if I was ever going to move forward. It's been a difficult process, but I'm starting to feel like I'm making progress. I've also been spending more time with my brother. I've been taking him out on weekends, just the two of us, and it's been really nice to bond with him in a way that I never could when we were younger. He's such a sweet, caring person, and I'm grateful to have him in my life. As for my mom, she's still recovering, but she's making progress every day. We've had some difficult conversations about the past, but I think we're both trying to move forward and rebuild our relationship. It's not easy, and there are still a lot of hurt feelings on both sides, but I'm hopeful that we can find a way to heal. So that's where things stand right now. It's been a challenging few weeks, but I feel like I'm in a better place than I was before. I'm learning to set boundaries and take care of myself, while still being there for my family when they need me. Thank you again for all of your support and advice. It's meant more to me than you could ever know. Am I the idiot for leaving my son's wedding early after being seated like an outsider? First post, so please accept my apologies if I don't follow every protocol. I, 52-year-old male, have 3 sons, 31, 28, and lost youngest 7 years ago to unalived when he was 20. I have been divorced since 2002 from their mother, but until 2009 I had them every other weekend. My career required me to move out of state, so we did the video chat thing, and then in the summers they would come individually for 2 weeks. Every time their mother called saying the boys needed something, I made sure she had the money for it in less than 24 hours. Every school event that I was invited to, I would make the 12-hour drive to be there, including high school graduations. When we lost the youngest in 2017, things became very strained between me and the 2 oldest. I made sure to send a text once a week to let them know that I loved them and that I was always a phone call away. Last summer, I lost my father to a long battle with dementia. During the funeral process, I learned that both boys had made the drive down numerous times to see him in the nursing home, yet never so much as let me know they were in town. During the funeral, I was so proud of them because they stood and shook every hand of each person that came to pay their respects. I made sure to tell them that. A couple of months later, the oldest got married. They invited me, my brother, and my mother. We made the 8-hour drive without hesitation. At the wedding ceremony, no one acknowledged us. The 3 of us were seated on the bride's side just behind the family section. We got through the service and went to the reception where we were seated at the very last overfill table, far away from the wedding party and in the back. The babysitter from when the boys were little sat at the table with us. I jokingly asked her what she did to be punished to have to sit with me. Dinner was a buffet, and by the time our table got to go through the line, they were out of most of the food. We sat through the wedding party entrances and listened to the speeches from the moms, the best man, and the bridesmaid. At this point, We had been at the reception for 2 hours. I felt unwanted and disrespected, but my feelings didn't matter because to me it was their day, and that was what mattered. Anyway, after the speeches, I looked at my mother and brother who felt the same way and told them I was ready to go. The only thing left on the agenda was the first dances, and then it was going to be a big party into the night. So we quietly and discreetly snuck out the door and left. 30 minutes later, I got a very irate call from my youngest for leaving early and without saying goodbye. I told him that tonight wasn't about me and that he needed to focus on celebrating with his brother. We could talk later. He claimed they wanted to get a pic with us and came looking for us, and that is when he found out we left. I told him that no one had told me this, and that if I had known, I would have sat there until 3 a.m. to make sure that pic happened. He hung up mad. Since then, both boys refused to talk to me. It has been 8 months. I still send a text, but they are ignored. So am I the AH for leaving early? I stand by my decision, but I regret what it has cost me. So now I am questioning whether I am in the wrong or not. Thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Someone else suggested a detailed letter and I think it's a good idea. This must be incredibly difficult for you. Do your best to enjoy your life for what it is. Hopefully they cool off and come around. But something seems really off based on the timing of events. Like, did their mother blame you for the youngest passing or the divorce and other stuff that would alienate them from you? If she's been saying things that make them angrier with you, I'm not sure how to change that kind of deception. Be yourself as you have been, and hopefully they give your letter a read or hear what your mother has to say. Comment 2. At first glance, I would have said, not the idiot. But based on the fact that your comments reveal you chose money over family and only spent 2 weeks a year being a proper parent, I'm now firmly voting you're the idiot. Additionally, your sons probably think you're gross. You are commenting on Reddit posts from R College Sluts and R Homemade NSFW, where the title is just turned 18 inches and the person is dressed as if they are prepubescent. You are 52, dude? Get a grip. Either this is a fake story, or you need to do a lot more self-reflection about why you are not someone they would want to be close with. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all the support and advice. It's been a tough week since then, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening. First off, I decided to take the risk and reach out to my sons again. I sent them both a heartfelt email, apologizing for leaving the wedding early and explaining how much they mean to me. I poured my heart out, hoping that they would understand and forgive me. But unfortunately, it seems to have backfired. A few days after sending the email, I got a response from my oldest son. He said that my email was too little, too late, and that they had already made up their minds about me. He accused me of being a selfish father who was never there for them when they needed me most, especially after their brothers unalived. He said that I had always put my career and my own needs before theirs, and that leaving the wedding early was just the final straw. I was devastated by his response. I had always tried my best to be there for my sons, even with the distance between us. I had always made sure they had what they needed financially, and I had always made the effort to attend important events in their lives. But it seemed that in their eyes, it was never enough. As I reflected on my relationship with my sons over the years, I realized that there had been some underlying issues that I had never fully addressed. After the divorce, I had thrown myself into my work as a way of coping with the pain and the guilt of not being there for my boys every day. I had always assumed that as long as I was providing for them financially and showing up for the big moments, that was enough. But I see now that I had neglected the emotional side of our relationship, and that had taken a toll over the years. I also realized that I had never fully processed the loss of my youngest son. His unalived had been a devastating blow to our family, and I had never really allowed myself to grieve properly. I had tried to stay strong for my other sons, but in doing so, I had bottled up my own emotions and pushed them away. The fallout from my email has been hard to deal with. My sons have made it clear that they want nothing to do with me, and I'm not sure if there's anything I can do to change that. I've tried reaching out to their mother for help, but she's made it clear that she's on their side and wants me to respect their wishes. I'm at a loss for what to do next. I feel like I've lost everything that matters to me, and I don't know how to move forward. I've started seeing a therapist to work through some of these issues, But it's going to be a long road ahead. I know that I can't change the past, but I hope that someday my sons will be able to forgive me and see how much I love them. Until then, I'm just taking things one day at a time and trying to focus on my own healing. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. Thanks for listening and for all your support. It means a lot to me. Am I the idiot for not including my flatmate in dinner after they mocked my past and stole my food? So I, 22 years old, have this flatmate, 24 years old, who has a little habit of any time I have a guest over, they'll take some of the food I make. They also love to make really nasty jokes at my expense. For context, a year before we met, I had a problem with substance use but have since been to therapy about it, making me feel inferior. Earlier today, I started prepping a nice dinner, but only enough food for my husband, myself, and one guest who we frequently have Sunday dinners with. Shortly after I had begun cooking, my guest arrived and promptly helped with making dinner. After a while, my husband came up and started helping also. By then, the flatmate had been sitting at the dining table watching the three of us cook. Each time something needed taste testing, I'd ask either my husband or the guest to help. Multiple times while cooking, I'd gently mention that the two of them will love the bread if it's made to go with dinner. At no point did I include the flatmate in making the meal or give any indication that they will be joining us. By the end of cooking, all the other tasks were done. The only thing left was grilling 3 chicken thighs, which I'd been marinating for half the day. Once I was satisfied that I wouldn't give anyone salmonella, I called out to my husband and my guest to each grab a plate. I was then met with my flatmate also holding a plate, seemingly expecting me to serve them my share of the meal. Here's where I might be the jerk. I'd actually made 4 servings, but one of them was already packed away for my lunch since there is nowhere to get affordable healthy foods near my place of work. So I half-heartedly look at my flatmate and tell them, "I'm so sorry, but I only made enough for my husband, my guest, and myself. If I had known you were expecting me to cook for you, I'd have made enough to go around. My issue with this is that I've had to buy my own fridge freezer and place locks on it to avoid theft. A reasonable assumption you can make is that my husband and I cannot afford to constantly feed an extra mouth since we're flatting and unable to move out. Am I the idiot?" Edit to clarify some things. 1. Neither myself nor my partner are the leaseholders. We are subleasing from another tenant. 2. The flatmate who this ask is about is not the one stealing our food. That is someone else in the house. 3. The flatmate in question has lived there longer than us. 4. Not long after moving in, this flatmate attempted to become friends with me and has subsequently invested themselves in my wider social life, making it more difficult to communicate effectively without causing drama. 5. The reason we are in a shared living arrangement is due to the cost of living crisis being made exponentially worse by our current government. 6. If I could move out, we would. Update: the leftovers were really good. Edit 2. When asked why I had bought 2 bags of flour, I let the flatmate know an hour and a half before even beginning to make the bread that my husband and I would be hosting a friend. Husband's name and I will have friend's name over for dinner tonight. It was at this time that they noticed the 4 portions of chicken thawing out in a Tupperware container. To make that much bread takes around an hour and a quarter, which is where most of my time in the kitchen went to. Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1, not the idiot. It would be pretty presumptuous for a flatmate to even ask you to cook for them, but this isn't even that. This is asking for food at the end of cooking when you've already prepared food for a set number of people. Your flatmate is clearly trying to take advantage of your kindness, and you need to set some firm boundaries. And don't feel guilty. It is not your responsibility to feed this person. It's also just really weird that they hung around in the kitchen while you cooked with your guest. Comment 2, not the idiot. But I sort of wish you'd said, "I'm so sorry, but of course I only made enough for my husband, my guest, and myself. If I had known you were expecting me to cook for you, I'd have asked you for some money so I could afford to make enough to go around." Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. A lot has happened in the last 3 days since my last post. The day after the dinner incident, my flatmate confronted me about not including them in the meal. They said they felt left out and disrespected, especially since they had been sitting there watching us cook the entire time. I tried to explain that I had only prepared enough for my husband, our guest, and myself, but they weren't having it. They brought up how they always include me when they cook, and that I should have done the same. The conversation quickly escalated into an argument, with both of us raising our voices. In the heat of the moment, my flatmate made a snide comment about my past substance abuse issues, saying that maybe I was still using, and that's why I was being so selfish. I was shocked and hurt by their words. I thought we had moved past that, but apparently, they still saw me as the person I was before therapy. I couldn't believe they would use my past struggles against me like that. The argument left me feeling drained and upset. I confided in my husband about what had happened, and he was furious. He wanted to confront our flatmate immediately, but I asked him not to. I didn't want to make the situation worse than it already was. The next day, things were tense in the flat. My flatmate and I barely spoke to each other, and when we did, it was only out of necessity. I couldn't help but feel like they were judging me every time they looked at me. It was a relief when my husband and I left for work that morning. However, when we returned home that evening, we found that our locked fridge freezer had been broken into. Some of our food was missing, including the leftovers from the previous night's dinner. I was livid. Not only had my flatmate made me feel terrible about not including them in the meal, but now they had stolen from us too. I confronted them about it, but they denied any involvement. They claimed that it must have been one of the other flatmates, but I didn't believe them. The timing was too coincidental. I knew it was them, but I had no proof. The incident with the fridge freezer brought back painful memories from my past. When I was struggling with substance abuse, I had stolen from my family and friends to support my habit. I had betrayed their trust and hurt them deeply. I had worked so hard to rebuild those relationships and prove that I had changed, but now it felt like I was right back where I started. I couldn't help but wonder if my flatmate was right. Maybe I hadn't changed as much as I thought I had. Maybe I was still the same selfish person I had been before. The thought made me sick to my stomach. The next day, I decided to confront my flatmate one more time. I needed to know the truth. I found them in the kitchen, making themselves breakfast. I took a deep breath and asked them point blank if they had stolen from our fridge freezer. To my surprise, they admitted it. They said they had been angry and hurt by my actions and had taken the food as a way to get back at me. They apologized for what they had said during our argument and for stealing from us, but the damage had already been done. I realized then that I had a decision to make. I could either continue to live with someone who didn't respect me or my boundaries, or I could stand up for myself and my husband and find a new place to live. It wasn't an easy choice, but I knew what I had to do. I told my flatmate that we would be moving out at the end of the month. I couldn't continue to live with someone who would use my past against me and steal from me. It was time for us to move on and find a place where we could feel safe and respected. The decision wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right one. I had worked too hard to overcome my past to let someone else drag me back down. I had to be true to myself and my values, even if it meant leaving a place that had once felt like home. Thanks for reading, everyone. I appreciate your support during this difficult time. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!